All right, y'all. Super late to my live stream. Yes, I know. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump straight into it. I didn't really have a whole lot of topics that I wanted to talk about. Um, as y'all can see, title of the stream is the Real Native Stream, episode 6. Batman Caped Crusader was boring. So let's go ahead and jump into it. The first thing that I wanted to talk about was what is it? Marvel. So I did a video actually, I believe like 5 days ago, where I said Sony was blocking Marvel from using any of the villains that they had currently used in their universe. They were not letting Marvel use them, which I thought was complete crap. So here's the thing, right? Sony, I think, is on some trash because they're not letting Marvel use their villains in the um MCU because they've already been using them in the MCU in the spin-off universe. And I don't understand Sony at all. Like, why would y'all block Marvel from using these villains unless y'all wanted more money and y'all was not getting paid? I think that's possibly what it is. Or it could be option number two. Marvel has one idea for Spider-Man, and Sony has another. But to me, that just wouldn't make sense as to why Sony would block Marvel from using other villains. I really believe it's just because maybe Sony wants more money, or if Sony wants to use Spider-Man for their own spin-off universe, maybe they could, but they don't want to, or maybe Marvel has a clause in the contract where they're like, "Well, we're using them, so you have to wait until we're done." So I'm a little confused by that. But either way it go, I've not sitting in the room during these contract negotiations, so I don't know what exactly the deal is. But Marvel, I'm sorry, Sony. Y'all need to lighten up. Let Marvel use some of these villains. It's like y'all using all these uh almost A plus villains, definitely B plus villains, and y'all are making these movies and they're crappy movies. They're not making a whole lot of sense. I mean, like I said, to me, this whole universe died with Morbius. That was garbage. It makes no sense as to why y'all still trying to create this spin-off universe. And the Craven movie, the trailer looks good. I'm not excited to see it as a Craven movie, but I'm excited just to see it as an action adventure movie. But as a Craven movie, no. But y'all need to stop being so petty and let Marvel use some of y'all villains in the MCU. Because y'all keep doing this anti-hero thing, one movie after another, and it's like nobody really cares, nobody's really interested. So, in my opinion, Sony needs to lighten up and let Marvel use their villains in the MCU because I feel like it would be so much more entertaining and so much better. The only ones we've had so far is Vulture. Of course, you had some past villains from Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire's um, days of superheroes. They've shown up like Electro, and of course, I believe it was the Green Goblin, Sandman, stuff like that. One of the villains I want to see, well, actually, I guess we're not going to see it now since Sony's already used them, which is Venom. But I want to see Venom done the right way. I don't want to see the Venom we've been getting in live action flipped over to the MCU. I want to see an actual Venom, just a better Venom, not the one we've been getting in the MCU. I mean, in the spin-off universe. Morbius, I'll be fine if I never see again. Um, but what I really want to see when it comes to Spider-Man, I really want to see him in his own movie without all the tech and without all the team ups. Like I understand from Marvel, it's exciting to think of all the team ups you could possibly do, but it's like y'all gotta let this man be his own man and let him have his own adventures without trying to team him up with Ant Man and Daredevil. I guess Daredevil will be fine, but I really want to just see Spider Man on his own, doing his own thing. I think it'd be more fun that way. So that's what I think about this whole Sony Spider Man spinoff situation. The spinoff movies have been bad. I'm not even excited for the Craven movie as a Craven movie, but as an action adventure movie, it looks good. And then on the other side, later on this year, you got the Venom movie. The trailer I like. It actually looks better than the last two trailers that we've gotten for Venom 1 and Venom 2 combined. But the movie itself, I just don't have any hope for. I mean, we've had two not so good movies, and don't expect the third one to be good. It's the last movie. It's not like they got a fourth or fifth one. It's the last movie. It's the last dance, and I don't expect it to be good. I feel like this whole spin-off universe is under what's the word I'm trying to find here? I feel like it's underperforming. And when Sony announced this, I really didn't have any faith that it was gonna be any good. So now here we are, so many movies into it, and it has not been good. So moving on from that, like I said, there wasn't a whole lot of topics I had to talk about. The main thing was Batman Cape Crusader. And I'm gonna get to that a little later. There is something actually I just want to talk about right now. Robert Downey Jr., of course, reveals the whole conversation as far as how he came back to be Doctor Doom. Well, not how he came back to be Doctor Doom, but how he came back to the MCU, but as Doctor Doom. So I'm sure a lot of y'all know that you know, Kevin Feige and Robert Downey Jr. have been cool, I guess, for some time now. And this has actually been in the conversation for like the last year that he wanted to come back. And I guess he ended up having a conversation with Kevin Feige, and Kevin Feige kind of threw it out there because I guess they didn't know where to go. And that's pretty much what got us to where we are today, with Robert Downey Jr. being Doctor Doom, because they didn't want him to go back to being Iron Man. So they was like, what else could we do? So they were like, oh, what about Victor Von Doom, aka Doctor Doom? So my question is, maybe I need to read some more stories. Are we gonna get him as like are his teammates or former teammates, I should say, gonna see him as Doctor Doom, which means they're not gonna look at him as Tony Stark Iron Man, or is his teammates gonna look at him as Tony Stark Iron Man, but you know, as a different person? You know what I mean? Because you got Cottonmouth, who is in. You got Mahershala Ali, who was Cottonmouth, and he's supposedly was coming back as Blade. It sounds like his movie's off the table, but this is different. You got this character. You got Robert Downey Jr., who was Iron Man, and everybody's saying he's playing a variant, or maybe he's playing an evil version of Doctor Doom, or maybe somehow Doctor Doom took over Tony's body, and now he's basically Doctor Doom, or evil version of Tony. I don't know. I'm confusing myself here. So I'm interested to see how they're gonna pull this off. I do wonder about some of the movies they have leading up to Avengers Doomsday, because a lot of this stuff was setting up for Kang Dynasty, and now it's going in a completely different direction. I know with Agatha, all along they had to make some changes. They took some stuff out. They were supposed to feature um King the Conqueror because now he's no longer the big bad, so they took it out. So I'm pretty sure they probably had to stitch something together to make it look good. And now here we are with Robert Downey Jr. coming back as Doctor Doom. And for me, what I want to see is I want to see him still be. I still want to see his teammates look at him as Tony Stark Iron Man, even though it's not him. Because I think it would be really cool to see how his teammates would trip out if they're looking at him and saying it's Tony, but it's not Tony. He has Tony's face, but it's not Tony. So I think that'd be really cool to see. Um, yeah, I just want to see what they do going forward. I'm pretty sure some movies have had to go through some major changes, maybe behind the scenes, because of course this was supposed to be um, Kang the Conqueror storyline, and now it's a Doctor Doom storyline. And I've seen some people post on social media that Doctor Doom is going to take out all the Kang variants. I guess that's a way of them closing the Kang storyline for good. So they don't have to worry about going back and doing that again, which I think would be kind of corny. Because I wouldn't mind seeing Jonathan Majors come back as King of Conqueror again. It's a comic book movie. There's a way that they could work him back into the storyline. So I would like to see him come back and play the character again if they're able to make it work. So that's what I think about the whole situation. Me personally, I want to see um, his teammates look at him as Tony, but it's not really Tony. I think that'd be more exciting to see. So, with that being said, let's move on to the next topic, shall we? And the next topic I want to talk about, like I said, I didn't have many. Let's see. The next topic. So it looks like Zack Snyder still working with Netflix. He has his new show out called Twilight of the Gods, which is a more bloodier, crazier, um, you know, story for Thor, Loki, and I guess some of the other characters. The animation looks okay. It's not really selling me. Everything else kind of is, but I guess I have to see it in action. I did a trailer reaction to it a couple days ago. It looks okay, but I want to see more of it in action. Like I said, this has probably been in development for quite some time now because um, Zack Snyder's been working with Netflix since he started working with them with his his Rebel Moon stuff. So I'm interested to see how this is gonna look as far as the movie goes. My issue when it comes to TV shows, even if it's animated, they don't get a long shelf life because Netflix is always famous for canceling stuff. We don't even know if we're gonna get any more Rebel Moon movies because of them doing so bad on Netflix as far as the director's cuts goes. So I don't have any hopes for this show. I might watch it, but it's gonna be interesting to see what Zack Snyder does with these characters. That's my take. So, with that out of the way, we can officially get into the main topic, the bread and butter, which is the Batman Caped Crusader. And I gotta honestly tell y'all, Batman Caped Crusader, I believe was supposed to pay homage to Batman the animated versions from the 90s. I think that's the right one, right? Batman the animated features from the 90s. And I grew up watching the animated series. I loved it. Loved it. It was so good. And this to me was nothing like the animated series. There were certain things that I saw the animated series in, but a lot of it wasn't. Like the look of the city, it reminded me of the animated series, but that's about it. Everything else about this show was not the animated series. And I know it wasn't supposed to be, but it just, I don't know. Batman, this TV show to me, I didn't look at it as Batman the animated series. I looked at it as its own thing. The main thing I didn't like about it was how they didn't have a lot of people in the city walking around. They didn't have to add to the storyline, but they could have had them doing something. In this show, they were just nobody was really around unless they were pushing the story forward. It was like people just weren't there, and it never made any sense. When Batman was driving down the street, with the cops were doing a high speed chase, you didn't see anybody in the street. It was just like, oh, he's just there's nobody there unless they're pushing the story along. So that kind of bothered me. What else about this show bothered me? The main thing that bothered me was the Batman. I didn't really like his character in this show. To me, I felt like he was he just really wasn't interested. Hmm? To me, he just wasn't. To me, he just wasn't. He just wasn't. I don't know. It's something about his character. He just sounded bored. Like whoever voiced the Batman in this show, he was bored. You know what I mean? Um, I tried to get into the show, and to me, it didn't really pick up. I tried to get into the show. I tried to get into the show. To me, it didn't really pick up until like episode 5. I think like the first 3, the first 4 actually just weren't that good. Um, some of the characters were okay. Like Harvey Dent, his character was basically a snake before he was even Two Face. It was like they didn't even have to mess up his face to make him Two Face. He was already Two Face before they threw acid on him. I forgot. There's something else. They do a lot of changes with this show. So yeah, Harvey Dent's Two Face is running for mayor, and he's basically making a bunch of backdoor deals with a bunch of criminals. And he decides to renege on a deal, and he ends up getting acid thrown in his face for his troubles. So he ends up getting acid thrown in his face for his troubles, and his face his face looks messed up, right? But it's not like Harvey Dent messed up like back in the 90s. It just kind of looks like his face is hanging, like he had a stroke or something. Anyway, he doesn't last. Uh, his character doesn't last very long. He's lasts through the whole season, but he ends up getting killed by a gun at the end of it. And when I think about his Harvey Dent, and I think about the Harvey Dent from the 90s, they're two completely different Harvey Dents. Where the Harvey Dent in the 90s really had more of a dark side to him, and his face really got more messed up. I think with this Harvey Dent, it was kind of more realistic versus the Harvey Dent whose face turned blue when it got blown off. This one just had acid on him, so maybe it was just because it was two different things. Maybe that's why. But this Harvey Dent, he had anger management issues. I believe even before he was Two Face. But what I would like to see was him be more Two Faced. Um, but I feel like they cut it off before we got a chance to see him really be that villain. Who else do we have around here? We got Firefly or something like that. I can't say anything about his character because I didn't know anything about him. Who else gonna talk about here? We got Harley Quinn. She was a big staple in this show. She was basically a psychiatrist, and I didn't really think about her name when I saw it or heard it. I just was watching the show. It wasn't until we got her episode where she was having rich people come and see her to talk about the issues, and then she was locking them up in her dungeon at her house, which was crazy. So she would take them, lock them up in her house, and then she would basically just make them give away all their money, and instead of letting them go, she would, I don't know, just basically make them stay there and just do whatever she wanted them to do. I thought it was crazy. So she was basically already crazy before we even got Joker, before Joker even got to her. So I thought that was interesting. And plus, she's thick. She's not even like a skinny chick. She's thick. So she's way different than the Harley Quinn we've got in the TV shows in the 90s. She's not like crazy where she's talking crazy. She sounds like a regular, normal person. She just has this crazy side to her. It's this whole other persona. Um, so I thought that was pretty crazy. Then they got this whole, she's basically, she's in the females. They had a female kiss in here. Why, I do not know. So once she gets found out, she ends up skipping town. Like I said, the biggest thing that I didn't like about this show was the Batman. The guy who voiced him, and I'm not trying to compare him to Kevin Conroy, but just standing on his own 2 feet, in my opinion, I don't know if it's because it's the early, younger version of Bruce Wayne, but his character sounded so bored and uninterested. It was hard to get into this Batman. Like his character sounded like he would rather do anything else but be Batman. And it really bothered me because it was like I really want to see him grow and flourish. I was hoping we would see it more into the season, but whether he was Batman or whether he was Bruce Wayne, he was kind of dull and boring. And there was maybe like the first 2 or 3 episodes where you saw some of his personality shine through when he was Bruce Wayne, but when he was Batman, it was like there was no emotion to his character, there was no feeling to his character. And the more I watched it, the more I wanted to go back and watch the '90s Batman because this one clearly just didn't do it. One of the other things, why was he such a dick to Alfred? It's like he didn't really lighten up to the end of the season, but why was he such a dick to Alfred? And what I mean is, there was a time where after he ends up, okay, so let me say this. At the beginning of maybe one of the episodes, I can't remember which episode it was, he has to go to therapy because he punches out a guy for making some comments about some pearl necklaces and why would this person wear a pearl necklace in this messed up hooded area of Gotham. And obviously we know his mom did that and we know what happened to her, right? So he punches the guy. It's a bunch of news cameras there. They catch it. He ends up getting not locked up, but having to go to therapy. So anyway, every day I think he comes out of therapy. What happens? His butler, Alfred, is always asking him, how was his day and all this other stuff. And, he's trying to encourage him to go more to really get his feelings out there. And he's like, drop it. I don't want to go. All this other stuff. So for pretty much the whole entire season, he's a dick to Alfred. Well, the one thing about Alfred is that he's more pudgy. I guess because it's a young Bruce Wayne, it would make sense for Alfred to be younger, not older. But he's pudgy. He's not skinny like you normally see, and he's not super old either. So it's different. None of the voiceovers for any other characters really bother me because I don't really get into how each person sounds when they voice Batman. I know everybody sounds different. I guess for me, it's just the animation. And to me, Batman, the animated series from the 90s, is always going to have the greatest animation in Batman history. I feel like everything that has followed suit, they've just made it look too cartoony. And what I mean is, when you look at Batman, the animated series, excuse me, his character has just look, I don't want to say realistic, but I think it was just the details to the character, especially when you see him as Bruce Wayne. There's so much detail to his face that it looks almost like it could be a real human. But when they switched up and they made it whatever the other season was, where he went from wearing the blue, gray, and black to the black and the gray, they took away the realistic features of his face and made it more cartoony, and they kind of brightened up his face and everything like that. And I didn't really care for it. Even the Joker looked bad. Like the Joker, they made him look really creepy in like the animated series, and then he went to being like blue with no eyes or something like that, and it looked just really weird to me. So with this show, I was expecting it to kind of have a realistic look to it, like the city looks good, but the characters still kind of got that cartoony look to it. It's like they tried to dip and dab between Batman the animated series and I believe Batman the New Adventures. Maybe that's what the title is, and it looked kind of weird. But the trailer looked good. It really sold me. But then the show, I was just kind of like episode after episode. I feel like I was just pushing myself to watch it, mostly because I like the Batman and I wanted to see what they do. As far as the Batman suit, um, I don't know. I mean, it's okay. I understand it's like an older Batman from maybe like the 1920s, 30s, 40s. People have been saying. The suit is okay. It kind of has like a purplish hue to it, in my opinion. I don't really like the Batman logo. I think it's too small. The ears are really pointy and long, but I've tried to look past that. But it's just the guy who voices the Batman sound like he'd rather be doing anything else but voicing the Batman. And that's the main thing that bothers me. He sounds like he's bored. And I know that Warner Brothers has been shopping this around for a long time, trying to get it off the ground. I never thought this thing would see the light of day because they've been shopping this thing around for so long. So I was surprised when it finally did. So I was surprised when it finally did. And yeah, I can see why it took so long to get off the ground. It's not a great show. It hopefully if they get a season two, I know Warner Brothers is going through a lot of stuff right now. If it gets a season two, I hope season two is better. I hope that whoever is voicing the Batman, it goes back and watches the animated series from the 90s and some of the stuff from the 2000s, learn something from these other people who have voiced Batman and added to himself. Because I just feel like his Batman voice was really boring. To me, hands down, the greatest Batman voiceover, Kevin Conroy, hands down. He has the greatest Batman voice, period. And I think if he was probably still alive, I don't know when they started putting this into production. They probably would have asked him. If he was alive and probably would have read the storyboard for this. If he had to read it the way that they wanted him to read it, I wouldn't have done it. That's just my 2 cents. But let me see exactly. Let me see. Batman, Caped Crusader. I'm trying to think of. Oh yeah, so we do give a Joker appearance, but it's not a full body look. What happens at the end of the last episode? You see the camera move to like a small house or something like that, and the Joker is in it, and you see all these people who are sitting in the chair with goofy smiles on their face, and there's one guy who's sitting in the chair laughing, I guess, until he dies, and their face is all white like the Joker. And then the camera pans over to the Joker, and all you see is his eyes with a smile on his face, and it goes off. So apparently, we're getting the Joker in the next episode, in the next season. The one thing I know a lot of people had a lot of issues with was Oswalda, who is basically the female penguin. And I don't know if the writer of the show, the director of the show wrote this, but basically I guess they want somebody said that they wanted to add more female villains to this show because Batman already has a lot of male villains. So this is where they got excuse me, Oswaldo. They decided to take Penguin Oswald Cobblepot and make him Oswaldo. And that chick was crazy. She was nuts. She literally took out one of her own kids because she was unhappy with the fact that he snitched on her and he wasn't trying to join the family business. But in reality, he wasn't the one that did it. It was the older kid that did it. So the young kid had to pay for the older kid's price. Well, snitching. Yeah, a lot of people had a lot of issues with Oswaldo because they basically gender swapped he for she. And I feel like they should have just kept it as a he. If they wanted to add a female character, they could have added any female character from Batman's Galley. A lot of people were saying they could have added Poison Ivy. They of course did have Harley Quinn, but I think she was the only female in this whole thing. No, she wasn't. They had Catwoman. Catwoman was okay. Catwoman's story I thought was the funniest though. So basically, she lives in a nice swanky apartment, right? Or a penthouse. But what happens is she's missing payments. She's back on payments. I guess her dad left with the penthouse. So she's back on payments. Her dad leaves with the penthouse. And her butler or maid, I should say, is basically telling her, you back on payments. We need money to keep this place up to afford it. And so she goes to steal some jewelry. She dresses up as a Catwoman, and her suit is way different than what you normally see. It's not like a onesie. Her suit is like a skirt and a dress with a cat headpiece pulled over. She made it like she did it before, but she it's purple, so it's different. So she ends up going out stealing some jewelry, and she gets caught by the Batman, and she gets caught by the cops easily. Obviously, she has a criminal history as Selena Kyle, and so when she gets taken to court, she ends up getting out of the situation. And so, fast forward, pretty much by the end of the episode, she ends up getting caught again, and she gets locked up. And this is where she's in jail, and she has a bunch of stolen stuff in her house. So she calls her maid to get her out of jail by selling some of her stuff. And the maid is like, "No, you're on back payments. I've already sold everything." And I literally started laughing at the end of the episode because you see the maid in the empty apartment because they ended up having to move since she got found out that she was a thief. So she went from a penthouse to a poorhouse, and the maid sold all her stuff and decided to go on a cruise. So I'm sure there's going to be a good chance that she's going to be in season 2. Another character I like to see is Freeze. I like to see Freeze. The one thing I will say I did like about this show that they did was a lot of other shows, of course, the focus is always on the Batman. On this show, the focus was on the secondary characters. So Jim Gordon, his daughter Barbara, both of them are blocked, by the way. His daughter is I think she's like, I can't think of what she is. She works for the court. I don't think she's like an attorney, but she's basically a persecutor or something like that, or trying to get bad guys put in jail. So, yeah, and basically in this season, it focuses more on the the secondary cast. I can't think of the word more than it focuses on Batman. And with that, I actually like that. That's about the only thing I really liked about this show is that it took off the focus off Batman and kind of made him a secondary character in his own show. And yeah, he's there to help out, but the focus is always on them. Like there's an episode pretty much where Harvey Dent is making backdoor deals, like I was saying earlier, right? And so he's making backdoor deals to make more money because since he's losing in the polls, he's losing money. People are losing faith in him. So he's trying to do whatever he can to get people to believe that he's a good guy. Really, he's a bad guy. And so he ends up he ends up basically being a main focal point for maybe like 3 or 4 episodes, right? I think it's 3 or 2. I could be wrong. And the focus is a lot on him and what he's doing. And Batman is always secondary focus. You do see Batman as Bruce Wayne a lot. It jumps back and forth. Same thing as a TV show. But a lot of it is him as Batman. But that was the main thing I like about this show was the fact that it did focus on the secondary characters and their stories, like Harvey Bullock, and I don't know what the black guy's name who is his partner, but there's also a lot of focus on them because they're the main ones out in the street all the time. So they're shady, dirty cops, and they end up having an episode where their new boss, that's control of their team, she comes up with some type of plan, I guess, to try to get the Batman out and about so the cops can capture him. And so she says that they need some type of decoy to get Batman out, lure him out, right? So these two idiots decide to go on their own, grab Firefly, whatever his name is, from jail, let him run loose on accident, and then they end up luring the Batman out to capture him. I think one of them died because he got shot. I can't remember if Batman shot him or what happened to him. And then the other one, I don't know if he went to jail or if he got free. It's been a while since I watched the last episode, so I can't remember exactly what happened with these characters. But they're dirty cops. Jim Gordon in this show, he's okay. I'm not like the biggest Jim Gordon fan in this show. He's To me, he just does not have a backbone. He's okay, but there's no backbone with his character. He just doesn't really have that backbone that I really like. Some of the other episodes, some of the other characters was really interesting. Such as I'm trying to think. There's one where it's like a ghost, right? So there's one where there's like a ghost guy riding a horse, and I thought it was like a holograph or something, but it's not. So some guy approaches him about capturing this ghost spirit. Batman manages to capture him in a bottle. So Batman hands him off to the guy, and the spirit in the bottle is pleading with Batman not to be left with this guy. So hopefully we get an explanation as to what he did with the spirit in season 2. There's another episode where Harvey Dent throws a what is it? Harvey Dent throws a fair to get people to vote for him, right? And so there's a kid, there's two kids, one younger, one older, and they sneak over to this fair. And there's this girl with powers. Somehow she can drain them of her energy by, sucking it out of their body. So her brother, I guess he's using her powers as a cover up for his machine. But he doesn't support her doing this all the time, just every once in a while, right? So she says, screw that, I'm going to do this all the time now. So she starts draining kids their energy and stuff like that. And Batman, of course, has to stop her. I think it was an okay episode. Some of these episodes have been okay, some of them not so much. I think the Harley Quinn episode was better. This kid episode was okay. Maybe because I never seen this kid before. Maybe I have, but I just couldn't tell. But like I said, this season was pretty boring. I'm gonna give it, in my opinion, maybe I'm just being generous, a 6 out of 10. I'm pretty sure this is a different score than probably what I gave it for my actual review. But I'm gonna give this show a 6 out of 10. It was okay, but it wasn't great. Actually, like I said, it was boring. It didn't pick up until like season. I mean, not season. It didn't pick up until episode 5. But for the most part, the rest of it just really wasn't my cup of tea. Um, like I said, the only thing that I liked about the show was that it focused on the secondary characters. Everything else about this show, I was kind of like, I wasn't really interested. So if we get a season 2, like I said, I know Warner Brothers is going through money right now. If we get a season 2, I hope that they go in and improve. And like I said, one of the small things that I want them to do is I want them to add more people to the city, even if they don't push the story along. Just have them there, just to be there, because that was the one thing that was always missing. Their city was there, but the people were not. And then give Bruce Wayne more feeling. He was really robotic. That's the best way I can put it. Throughout this whole entire season, from the beginning to end, Bruce Wayne, aka Batman, was really robotic. It was nothing about his character that you felt any emotion for. So that's what bothered me. What else could they give improvement on season 2? I would like to see them give more time to other villains that you don't normally see that are probably a part of Batman's rogue gallery. I'm not sure of them all, but I like to see other villains because the Joker is always one of the most effective villains because he's probably Batman's greatest foe of all time, in my opinion. He's my favorite villain of all time. And I just feel like they ought to put some of the spotlight on other characters. I like how they switched it up. I guess that's two things I like about this show. And changed the story. I don't know if this is the OG story or this is just what worked for this show. But I like how they changed some of the story for these characters. Um, that's really the only things that I liked about this show. I'm trying to see what else they had that I did or didn't like. That's really about it. I just want to see them add more life to. Um, I would like to see them just add more life to Batman's character because, like I said, the guy who voiced Bruce Wayne, Batman, he sounded like he would rather be doing anything else but voicing Batman. But that's really all I got for this review or spoiler talk on the Batman. There's not really a lot else going on. I seen somebody post something on Twitter about Vision. So I guess we're supposed to be getting the season one of Vision on Disney Plus, and it's supposed to have the White Vision. And honestly, I'm not really interested. Like, I don't understand. Maybe it was Disney's plan to premiere these shows later than right after the pot was hot. Like the pot was hot with WandaVision, right? But then you get past WandaVision, and these shows are showing up 2 to 3 years later. Now I don't know if some of this had to do with the excuse me. I don't know if some of this had to do with the writer's strike, but I do wonder why did they have both of these shows? The show that they're gonna put out in another month, which is the Agatha All Along TV show, and then of course the Vision show. Why did they come out so late? It's like the only two TV shows, like I said, everybody was interested in was WandaVision and Moon Knight. Those are the main two shows that got the most talk. Everything else in between was okay or not great. So I do wonder why we're getting Agatha all along now, like 3 or 4 years after the show premiered. And then after that, you got Vision that's coming out in 2026. So it's been almost a decade since we got WandaVision by the time that show comes out. So I don't know if this was in Kevin Feige's plan all along or if it was like a last minute switch because of the writer's strike. And since we're talking about Marvel in the MCU, we gotta talk about um Blade. I'm sure a lot of y'all already know by now, but from other not reports, but what I've seen on social media, it seems like Marvel wants Wesley Snipes back as Blade. And honestly, I don't want that. I want them to go in a new direction and get a younger Blade because he'll be able to stick around a lot longer. It's like Wesley Snipes is what 67 years old, and honestly, I don't want to see him be back as Blade. It'd be different if maybe he had a son and they were going to do the son of Blade, and then they decided to have him come back and be the dad, and then he could teach his son how to be the new Blade. That would be pretty cool. I know they got the daughter of Blade, but I think the son of Blade would be pretty cool too. Because we've got a lot of daughter stuff when it comes to the new character taking over. Like you got the daughter of Wolverine, you got the daughter of Deadpool, now you got the daughter of Blade. So I think if they did a son of Blade, I can understand if Mahershala Ali was gonna come back, help out his son, team up with his son, show him how it's done, and then he could take over the mantle of being the new Blade, right? But to keep going in the direction that they've been going in, to me, it just wouldn't make sense to have this Blade pay Blade. Like I gotta see. Hold on. Hey Siri, how old is Wesley Snipes? Okay, so Wesley Snipes is 62 years old. I like Wesley Snipes as Blade. He's always going to be my definitive Blade, but I don't want to see him as Blade in the MCU. I feel like he's too old. Again, if it was him and his son, fine. I know they were supposed to do a movie with him and his daughter, but it sounded like they got away from it. But it seems like with everything going on with Mahershala Ali, I mean, when was it even announced that he was supposed to play Blade? Back in what, 2019? Let me see. Mahershala Ali's announcement he was supposed to play Blade. What was that? Black in 2019? And we still ain't got it. And it's been 5 years. I don't see them getting this movie off the ground anytime this year. So it probably wouldn't be getting into production until next year, which means it probably won't come out until 2026. So yeah, I'm looking at it right now. So it says Mahershala Ali is slated to take on the mantle of Blade in the new movie. The official announcement was made in 2019. As the actor appeared at San Diego Comic-Con, since then only a few cast members have been announced, including Delroy Lindo and Mia Goth, though their characters haven't been around. So this was announced in 2019 and it's 2024 and it's been 5 years. Is this the what is it? Is this the I'm trying to think about what it is in my head. Is this the Flash slash mutants slash Black Adam thing all over again? Where we finally get a Blade movie 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years later when fans have lost a lot of interest? It would have made sense depending on when they decide to have this movie slated to come out. It would have made sense to have it come out then. I know they had the whole writer strike thing, but I think it would have made a lot more sense if they would have had this movie come out maybe was it 2019? Maybe like 2 years ago, something like that. It doesn't make sense as to why they super late with this movie. So I don't think we're gonna get this Mahershala Ali Blade because it sounds like he's already moved on and went over to the Jurassic Park series. Because they got Jurassic Park, what is it, 5 coming out? I'm not saying it's part of the main story, like the beginning first 3 movies, the park. I'm saying Jurassic World. So I think they're already moving on to movie 4, and he signed on to do it, which I think was smart. I ain't gonna lie, if they were still doing um if they were still doing the Luke Cage story, I would love to see him as a Cottonmouth. But I believe he was doing 2 other projects. That's what the director said on social media. That's the reason he didn't stay on for Cottonmouth longer. So he agreed to have his character killed off so he can go finish his own 2 projects because the director said that's why you saw him having the same haircut and everything because he was still doing he's doing 3 projects in one time. And I like his character I like Cottonmouth. Cottonmouth was great. I liked his character. I liked the way he sounded. Everything about him was cool. And then they killed him off and his sister took over and that show went downhill. I didn't like his sister at all. I didn't like uh Shades, who's basically dating a grandma character. I didn't like that. That really disturbed me. So now he's supposedly Blade or not Blade anymore because Marvel doesn't know what to do with him. Kevin Feige came out around San Diego Comic Con and said that, oh yeah, it's gonna be an R-rated Blade. Honestly, nobody cares. We just want a good Blade movie. We just want a good Blade story. Telling us it's gonna be R-rated, that's fine, but can we just get the movie now? It's just been disappointing. I know we're not getting the Eternals. I'm not surprised. I feel like if a director has to come out and ask the fans or try and put it out there for the fans to, um, go put it out there and say I want to have a sequel to Eternals, then obviously we're not getting it. If a director has to push for it, we're not getting it. I think some of the other stuff like Shang-Chi 2, we should have already got. Like, what year did Shang-Chi come out? I feel like it's been so long since the movie came out. I don't even know. Let me see. Let me see. Shang-Chi. When did the first one come out? So the first Shang-Chi came out 3 years ago. I'm pretty sure by the time we get the sequel, it's gonna be like 4 or 5 years. I try to be optimistic when it comes to Marvel, but lately things haven't been good with them, and it's been hard to be optimistic. Not that I'm excited for a sequel to Shang-Chi, I just want them to get their ducks in a row because it's like Shang-Chi we got 3 years ago. By the time we get the sequel, it's gonna be like 4 or 5 years in, and there has been nothing or nobody that, at least as far as I can tell, been tied to his character. Like the other movies, they always have something to tie another character into this storyline, or at least tied into the bigger storyline. And with Shang-Chi, it's just like he's just there, like a forgotten character. The other thing that I want to talk about is, with it Secret Wars coming up, there's supposed to be multiple characters, right? Um, the one thing I want to talk about is, I guess before we get to Secret Wars, um, who are the people, or at least the characters that are coming back, to get us to Avengers: The Kang Dynasty? I want to see that. I want to know who's coming back because there's been a lot of people obviously they can bring back for a one-off, and I think it'd be pretty interesting to see. Um, I don't think they're gonna bring back maybe some of the dead characters, but I do just want to see like a clear road with the characters they currently have. Will they bring back Gaia? And here's the thing I want to say about this. So when they did the Scroll storyline, I feel like they could take that and should have made it a bigger storyline in the MCU instead of making it into this small TV show, right? But I've seen people bring up, should the MCU bring back all of the Disney Marvel, well, not Disney Marvel, I'm sorry, Netflix Marvel characters like Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, and the Punisher. And you already got the door wide open because you got Daredevil, you got um the Punisher. So all you really need is Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, and Luke Cage. And I'm completely open for all these characters coming back. I want to see all the OG characters come back. I think the only OG character they didn't bring back for Daredevil was the OG Electra Nachos, and I believe the wife of Wilson Fisk. I think. Why? I don't know. I don't know if the plate was too busy. I don't know if maybe Marvel wanted to go in a different direction because they want to have their own characters when they do their own thing, right? Because originally they were supposed to redo this whole storyline with Blade. I'm sorry, with Daredevil Reborn. So then they decided, nope, we're just going to kind of continue on. Which I don't know if they're allowed to hire the actors. Um, I don't know if they're allowed to hire the writers for the TV show that worked on, the Netflix show. But if they could, I would, because it sounds like they've been going through a lot of issues. They, I guess, watched some of the season and didn't like it. So it's gonna be interesting to see what they do since they pretty much had to rewrite it from scratch, I guess. And that's the thing with Marvel, man. When you look at them, they are putting too much time and too much money into having to rewrite a bunch of shows. When you look at what James Gunn is doing as far as the Superman movie that he's put out, he's saying that he possibly will not have to do any reshoots, which really makes me happy. And that's something I think the Marvel needs to do. I know they have a lot of people they put in these movies. It's a lot of money they got to spend, especially when it comes to marketing. But they got to figure out some way, one, to cut back the spending, and two, now have to go through some of these shoots. Like I forgot what season or what show or what movie it was where they said they expected to have reshoots. So after the director walked away or he got fired, I can't remember. They basically had to go in and work their way into making it work without a director and then just release it, which makes zero sense to me. So cut back on the budget, Marvel, and don't expect to do reshoots. You know what I mean? It's like y'all expect to do reshoots, so it's like y'all got to put money aside for the reshoots. Stop always expecting to do reshoots. Hire somebody that knows what they're doing so they can finish the project. Like you got the Russo brothers, they came back. They're directing the next two Avengers movies, which I cannot wait to see. I might even have to be there opening night just to catch it. So I really hope what they do, um, you know what I mean, is gonna work out because I want to see Marvel get back to being Marvel when it was good, and I want to see DC, of course, get to this new place of being good. But spending all that money on reshoots and stuff like that, it makes zero sense to me. So yeah, when it comes to when it comes to what Marvel is doing, I just feel like they need to take their time and maybe not look 10 years out, but maybe like the next year or two out and try and focus on that instead of mapping it out for the next 10 years. That way they don't have so much on their plate. Because I'm pretty sure Kevin Feige is not planning this whole thing up by himself. I'm sure he has helpful hands, helpful eyes, all that good stuff. So I'm interested to see what they do with the MCU side. Anyway, that's all about that. Last thing I want to talk about is Rip It Verse. So I see a lot of people are getting on Eric July because he has priced down his comics and stuff to $5. Which, quite honestly, I would be grateful if he did that like legitimately all the time. I think a lot of people would, especially with inflation, because nobody's going to be able to afford a $20 or $30 comic. But maybe for reasons unknown, because he runs a business, he has to price point those comics that high. Whether it's the paper, the ink, the writers, everything, whatever it is, he has to pay for, right? My opinion, and like I said, I've jumped out the sandbox. There's only one comic I'm interested in, and that is Ice Arm 3. The rest of the comics, if I gotta collect them at a later time, whether I get in touch with somebody on eBay or whatever, I'll try and get them at a later time. I'm just not really interested in a lot of Rippaverse stuff right now. It seems like um it seems like the last book that just came out, the Gooding book, wasn't that good. Depending on who you ask. Depending on who you ask. But I think it'd be good if he could price point his books at a lower price, but I don't believe he will because he, he's got to make money. So for people that can get their hands on these books, good for them. I see, like I said, a lot of people talking about how bad it is that his books are this low because they've lost value. I'm not that deep in the comic books when it comes to the value of them or how all these stories and stuff works. So I guess we'll have to wait and see if these books have decreased in value. But yeah, I've jumped out the sandbox. There's nothing really about it. It's not that I got bored. I just lost interest in the stories. The last book that I got was the Yard comic book. I read it, did a review on it, I did a live stream on it, and that was it. I didn't plan on ever getting the Gooding book, and then I know he has another story. I think it's the Watchmen or something like that. I don't know. I think I got the title wrong. But he has another book coming out. Um, he has another book coming out. I can't think of the name of the character, but it kind of reminds me of. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Batman, but it's not, of course, Batman. It's somebody else, and I think he had one of the famous writers write about the character. But he's coming up, and yeah, I'm not interested in that book. I think it's just because it's like a random character that we don't know anything about. Like that's one things I kind of fell off with the Rippaverse because you're not really getting told anything about these characters. It's like you just get told, "Hey, I wrote this comic book. You should check it out." You have to wait till you buy the comic to find out about the character. We don't really find out really anything about this character until we actually get the book. And I'm trying to look for the name or something that talks about the character right now, but I can't really see anything right now that is I can't see anything at this particular point in moment the name about this character. Anyway, yeah, I think it's gonna be I think it's good that he lowered the price, like I said, especially with inflation going on. And it's kind of funny because he's actually going to be the team is going to be at SpaceCon in San Diego, which is literally like right down the street from me. They expected to be there next month. And I would kind of like to go just because I want to ask him some questions. But I don't know if I will. But anyway, I know he has this Watchman character, I believe is his name. And I'm not exactly sure I'm not exactly sure what the I think they're the Watchmen. But anyway, I know he was written by Chuck Dixon, and that character is going to be dropping soon. But we haven't heard anything about ISOM 3. So it makes me wonder. Oh no, I'm sorry. It's not Watchmen. It's Horseman. Okay, so the character he has coming out is the Horseman. Excuse me. The character's name is the Horseman. I'm pronouncing the name. I'm thinking. I thought it was Watchmen, but it's actually Horseman. So anyway, yes, Horseman dropping, and as much as I like the way the character looks, because we don't really know much about the character, I don't want to invest in something without really knowing anything about what it's about. Like even if you go to the website, it doesn't really tell you a whole lot about the character. You just kind of going in by faith. And it seems like he's had a lot of writing issues with his team. And Eric July says he has a team of rock stars. But then when people go to review the comic books, especially people like Mike Partika, and they go to break down these books, their team of rock stars that Eric says he works for has been dispelled because obviously you can't be rock stars if you have this many mistakes. Comic book after comic book after comic book after comic book. And maybe it's too many cooks in the kitchen because when you see the comic books, you see a lot of writers, inkers, all this stuff going on. So maybe there's too many cooks in the kitchen when it comes to these books. And a lot of people have been saying that um the Yara sisters that he hired to write, not the Yara sisters, the Sasuke sisters that he hired to write the Yara book didn't do a really good job. And maybe Eric July kind of popped himself in the foot with hiring them. Well, why art? Some people weren't happy with the fact that, you know, gender swap with Oswaldo. A lot of people weren't happy about that. It's just, but when it comes to the Rippaverse, I mean, I was interested in it because it was a new comic book from the ground up, and I didn't feel like I had to, you know, go back and read a bunch of other stories to get to where I need to be. I could read it from right there where he was at, and I do own like 4 of the comic books: ISM 1, ISM 2, Alpha Court, and Yara, and that's where I stopped. Because I don't feel like I'm missing anything if I don't read the book day one. I have been watching some reviews, not a lot, just to see how people feel about it, just to see what they got to say. Some people like it, some people don't. I know actually is not everybody's biggest fan. Maybe because it's politics. I'm not big on politics. I do watch some of the comic stuff we talk about. But my thing is, if you're strong enough to dish it out, he has to be strong enough to take it. Not everybody is going to be a fan of his comic books. So I understand that, he likes to talk a lot about what Marvel and DC doing and how bad they're doing. But he has to be strong enough to take it as far as the criticism that comes from people who may not like every single one of his books that he drops. There's actually a funny Muppet show that somebody created, and it sounds exactly like Eric July and the other people that he's had work with Rippaverse. I don't know the name of that show, but it's funny as hell. And Y Arc says, I think episode 8 is a really good episode. I cannot remember for the life of me what episode 8 was about. I have to go back and look it up. I have to go back and look it up. Let me see. Episode 8 of the TV show. Let me see. Hold on. Batman. Bear with me here. Caped Crusader. Episode 8. Let me see. What was episode 8 about? Okay, so episode 8 was the one with the little girl who was draining kids' their energy. I was talking about that earlier. My favorite episode, I will have to say, let me see. Episodes. If it wasn't the last one, let me see. Because to me, it didn't pick up till after episode 5. That was the episode where they had episode 6 is where they had the crazy beyond guy on a horse. It was a ghost. Episode 5 was, oh yeah, that's the one where they had Harley Quinn. So she was snatching up all the rich guys and making her a slave. That's what the show to me got interesting. I'll probably say maybe episode 5 was my favorite with Harley Quinn. Episode 8 was all right. Um, And then I think episode 9 and 10 were good too, because that's where it basically focused on Harvey Dent and him wanting to get revenge. But still, when it comes to the Ripperverse, I hope everything works out for Eric July. Like I said, I might jump back in the sandbox later on, but right now I just have no interest. I like watching everybody else's reviews and seeing what they have to say about it. It is kind of weird being on the outside and listening to people's reviews and not knowing what they're talking about because I'm used to already reading the comic book and then knowing what they're talking about. So it's funny being on the outside. And I've said this before. Mike Partika's video of the Ripperverse Gooding book is probably one of the funniest videos that I've watched in recent years because he said the book broke him, and the way that he's talking, it's like he can't really come up with the right words to explain this book. And he has reviewed some of it since, but I guess there's so many mistakes and errors, even tiny ones, that maybe he just fried his brain. So I thought that was really funny. Okay, gotcha. So yeah, that the Gooding book. Some people like it, some people don't. I don't plan on getting it. Um, I'm not really interested in his character or what his story is about. Um, bear with me here 1 second. But yeah, I've lost interest in any Ripperverse comic books except for one, and that's the last book in the arc of Ice Time, and everything else I'm kind of like I can wait for it because I do want to know how that story ends. Um, I do want to know how that story ends, but I'm not gonna lie. He's had other characters who've been more lively, who's been more interesting than Isom, and that has been the Alpha Core. But when it came to Gooding, like I said, when I watched Mike Partika's videos of it, and that's why I think he gets so many views, is because he breaks it down almost like he dissects it, you know what I mean? So it's like he really goes into it and really gives his opinion on what he thinks of the story, page for page, word for word. And I guess he just had a lot of issues that he couldn't get past and couldn't finish up. And it's funny because the story is written by Mike Baron, who's a legendary writer, and and Mike was saying how he had to see the script that Mike Baron turned into Eric July because he was like, "There's no way in the world this book is this bad," and it was written by a legendary writer. Now we don't know how much input Eric had into the switches that um that Mike Baron had turned in, but but obviously it was enough that it broke Mike. I've seen some other reviews and they said the book is okay. I've seen some other reviews and they said the book is okay. I'm gonna watch some more to see other people's opinion. But well, I guess like I said with Mike, he breaks it down. A lot of other reviewers, they just kind of like they give you their opinion. Some of the stuff they like, some of the stuff they don't like, but they don't break it down to a T. And that's one thing I like about Mike Particular's review. But like I said, I hope everything goes good with the Rupaverse in the future. Um, I would like to see I would like to see it do good. I feel like there needs to be just improvement on the writing, and maybe he needs to take a lot of the cooks out of the kitchen. Like have one person do the coloring, one person do the writing, one person do the wording. Like just have one person do each individual thing when it comes to them comic books. Because if you got multiple people doing multiple things, everybody has a different style, and when you finally get the book in your hand, it's gonna look weird. And Eric Shaw has admitted to some mistakes in the past books. I'm pretty sure there's other comic books that have written by big companies like Marvel and DC, and they have not been perfect. But if Eric Shaw is claiming he works with a team of rock stars, then they got to be on point because these people have been working with some of the big companies. Which, by the way, I did do a short video asking is the reason a lot of these writers are probably let go from some of these big companies is maybe because in the recent years, some of the stuff that they've written haven't been up to snuff because they've been let go. Eric is picking them up to show like, hey, these guys still got the juice, or these females still got the juice. And then they write for his Ripperverse, and then all of a sudden people get the Ripperverse comic, and the stories aren't as interesting, the characters aren't as interesting, the coloring looks crazy. You got all these different issues, and people are just like, well, what in the world is going on with this Ripperverse comic? it's supposed to have legendary writers behind it, yet the writing and stuff in the story itself just doesn't come off as that. Or maybe Eric July is holding back the story to add more later on. I don't know how filled up his Ripperverse Bible is that he dropped. Well, he didn't drop; it never came out, but that he said he has to write in the story. I, for one, am glad that I jumped excuse me, I'm fumbling over my words here. Jumped out of the sandbox because it's been fun to watch everything from the outside in. I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything by not buying any of the stuff because there's people out there who have spent thousands of dollars on some of his stuff. Whether it's been T-shirts that they recently dropped, whether it's been the shorts that they recently dropped, whether it's been the Ripazine, which I know they have a new story on Ripazine about this redheaded chick. And they got one cover that looks really funny. I don't know why it looks the way it does, but everybody on that cover look high as hell. But I do hopefully things to work out for their Eric July and his Ripperverse company. But I just think maybe he needs to get a lot of them cooks out of the kitchen and have one person do the writing, one person do the coloring, and then one person do something else. Because if you got too many cooks in the kitchen, the ingredients are probably gonna get all messed up. And I think this is one of the main issues. And the other thing is, when you writing these stories, you want them to knock them out the park. You want to hit a home run with each one of these characters that you're writing about, whether it's a single issue or whether they're tied into somebody else's. Because if fans may not like the last character, they may want to be interested in this one. And if fans are interested in this one, they might not be interested in the next one. So you gotta write. You gotta lead with your best foot when you write these books, Eric. You gotta lead with your best foot. You want people to come off as interested. You want people to be like, "Oh, smack! I can't wait to the next one." But if the story isn't interesting and you got too many stakes, comic after comic after comic, and yet you keep hollering about how you got legendary writers, people ain't gonna want to interested. And this ain't a knock. This is just what I've seen some people talk about when they review these comics. They got this issues here, they got this issues there. Yeah, Eric has a team of former writers who's written for the big dogs. Yet when they come to write for Eric's Lie and the Ripperverse, it's like crap. Or maybe Eric is telling them not to give too much away for the first book. We're gonna save some for the second. Which again brings me back to where in the world is Ice on 3? It's the only book I want. That's it. Everything else I can keep. I just want to know where Ice on 3 at. I don't think we're gonna get I don't think we're gonna get Ice on 3 this year. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't get Ice on 3 until next year. Because I definitely believe that the Horseman book was supposed to be a summer book. I believe that Gooding book was supposed to be a spring book, and I believe that the Yara book was supposed to come out in the wintertime, but the winter it came out was right exactly like at the end, like the last 2 weeks of winter. And then of course you got Gooding in the summer. So that means we're not getting the next book until like the fall. So, we'll have to wait and see what happens. But I haven't been following a whole lot of his live streams and stuff like that. But like I said, I just want one book and that's it. That's just Ice on 3. Everything else, um, you know, if y'all interested in, get it. I just don't understand why people out here spending millions of dollars, not millions, but at least thousands of dollars on some stuff that may not even be worth that much. But I guess you never know, right? You didn't know when you bought the first Spider-Man comic or the 100th Batman issue whether it's gonna be worth money. You're taking a chance. But him having these books graded, as much as I want one of them CGC comic books, not his, but just a CGC comic book, I don't know if getting this book graded this early before we really find out if it's gonna be worth any money is the right move. And people are spending a crap load of money to buy these books. It's graded. Or they're getting them graded and they put them on eBay. Because they've picked up some that's been written by legendary writers, which those ones I guess I can understand because they got legendary writers written on it. But if it's not a legendary writer that has written the book, I mean that's written it, but hasn't signed it, and they get it graded, and people go to the Ripperverse website and they buy it, I just don't understand why you spend that money on that book graded. Maybe you're taking a chance and hoping maybe 10 years down the line it'll be worth some money, so you're gonna sit on it, but we don't know. We gotta wait to find out. Anyways, feels good to do a live stream again, especially doing it for an hour because most of the time I've been cutting them short, maybe like a half hour, 40 minutes. I'm trying to think because topics have been really slow to come by. Even things that I've been putting out there on YouTube, it's been slow to come by. I'm trying to see what other stories are out there we could possibly talk about. Let's see. I did talk about James Gunn and the way that he is approaching Superman because we know everything that's been going on over there on the DC side has not been great over the last 10 years. So this is where James Gunn has got to knock it out of the park with Superman. It's got to be great. It's got to make the money back at the box office and then some. But I really hope, even with all these characters in it, I hope they don't spend too much money. And that's one of the things you got to pay for. The set. You got to pay for the suits. You got to pay the actors. You got to do marketing. There's so much stuff that goes into this that I don't know. But I'm hoping they didn't have some crazy budget because Warner Brothers is broke. They can't afford all that. All right. So they're pretty much throwing all of their eggs into this one basket, hoping that James Gunn is able to bring the DC back with this new DCU. Because a lot of people have been tired of superhero movies over the last 5 years after since Avengers Endgame ended. Anime has been the new thing to take over. But I feel like maybe Marvel has gotten bored. It's almost like WWE versus WCW or WWF, where, back then Marvel didn't really have any competition when it comes to the DCEU because they were still popping themselves in the foot with messing up a bunch of movies, and Marvel was still riding the high. And now Marvel has been riding high, but they've gotten sloppy. The DCU is coming, but is it going to be good enough to get fans behind it and get excited about their product? We don't know. I've watched a lot of videos and people comments. The main person I really watch that's not a big fan of the DCU is, I believe his name is Aaron Filch or something like that. Aaron Fisher, yeah. Called My Review. I watched a lot of his videos, and he's not a big fan of James Gunn at all. And the last video he did talking about James Gunn was talking about how the movie is supposed to be funny. I guess that's what one of the actors or actresses came out and said. And I don't mind it having a little funny in it, as long as Superman is the light in the movie. As long as Superman is you know, the the Superman we all want to see, not the dark Superman we got with kind of Zack Snyder storyline, but the more light Superman. But we're gonna have to wait and see. And I know a lot of people have been judging the Superman suit and all these other costumes, and so have I, but they look like crap. The Superman costume looks screen printed. It looks terrible. Hopefully, they can fix it up in post production. I hope James Gunn doesn't have to go through any reshoots and everything comes out looking good. I want this movie to be great. I definitely want to see it open tonight because if I don't, I'm just gonna have to turn off everything and go see it on the weekend when I get a chance. But I want this DCU to be good. I want it to be great. Now I know a lot of people are judging the DCU sort of off of the tone of what is it? The Creature Commandos, because I believe one of the executives came out and said that the tone for Creature Commandos is setting the tone for the new DCU. And in my opinion, I don't want it to be overly funny. The Creature Commandos animated TV show trailer that did a reaction to, it basically looked exactly like the Suicide Squad movie that we recently got from James Gunn. If that movie was live action, aside from that, I don't mind it being a little funny as far as live action stuff, but I do want it to have some seriousness to it. I feel like we got enough silly stuff going on with the MC. We don't need to have it all the way in the DC. James Good didn't come out and say something. I think I actually posted it. I'm trying to see if I can find it real quick. What did he say exactly? Let me see if I can find this real quick. James Gunn came out and said, I learned so much from making the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, but it's not like Superman is going to have exactly the same vibes as Guardians movie. It's actually quite different, which I'm all for. Which I'm all for. And why Arc9 says Marvel and DC have thing the Rippaverse doesn't have good design, good character design. Can't argue with you there. Can't argue with you there. Like I said, I hope Angela is able to get it together. but I think maybe he needs to slow down on trying to bring out new characters and just focus on maybe a handful of telling their stories before he's ready to move on. I think the reason he's releasing so many characters is because he wants to have a plethora of characters, if that's the right word to use, that fans can get behind. If they don't like Isom, they can move over to Yara. If they don't like Yara, you got the I forgot that team. They got a weird name. They were in the first comic book towards the end. I forgot. They're like a rock band. I forgot their name. You got them eventually if they ever if and when they ever appear again. And if you don't like them, you got this redheaded chick in the Ripazine, or you got the detective dude. So he has a plethora of characters that he's working with. I'm gonna give this thing a 5 minute warning, and then I'm gonna go ahead and call it a night. Yeah. So anyway, James Gunn in the DCU has got to knock it out the park. And as bad as everything we've had with the DCEU, I can't imagine this movie being bad because everybody is judging it through one lens. We've only seen everything from the street view, from behind the scenes. We haven't seen the movie put together yet. And so I'm going to wait to judge the movie and the trailer because I know that trailer is going to do numbers. Best believe your boy is going to do a reaction to it when it drops. Hopefully, it drops at a good time that I can catch it because if it don't, I'm just going to have to wait. I'm just going to have to wait because I definitely want to see that trailer. And I know that trailer is going to do numbers, whether it's positive or negative. Because if the movie does terrible, I mean, everybody's gonna be looking at James Gunn like, what happened? You had the whole thing of power in your hands, right? You got to choose your Superman. You got to write the script. You directed the movie. You got to do everything you wanted to do. So if the movie is bad, it's gonna look bad on James Gunn. If the movie looks good, it's gonna look good on James Gunn. But if he's basing it off some comic books, I don't know if it's like a loose story. He's basing it off some comic books. Then hopefully it's good. But maybe if he's basing it loosely off some comic books, the rest of it is his ideas. Hopefully it all ties in there and it's gonna be a good story. Hopefully it's gonna be a good story. 4 minute warning, yo. 4 more minutes. So I just want to see Marvel get back to being great. I want to see DC be great. I really want to see DC be great because Marvel has owned the cinematic universe for the last 10, 12, 13, 14 years, while DC has just been shitting the bed. So when it comes to DC, I want to see James Gunn knock it out the park because I don't want to see if this movie does bad, then it's not going to look good for any future projects that he drops. Fans are not going to be excited. So again, he has to knock it out the park with this to get fans excited. So the DCU is coming next year in 2025. Next year is going to be a big movie, a big year for superhero movies. But I'm trying not to say that too much because I said the same thing I believe for 2021 going into 2022. Or was it 2022 going into 2023? Where I thought it was going to be a big year for superhero movies. And a lot of that stuff was stinkers. So as much as I want to believe next year's going to be a big year for superhero stuff, I don't want none of it to be stinkers. Especially like the main thing I'm worried about because Marvel's been shitting the bed for so long. Captain America: Brave New World, because that movie has gone through so many reshoots, and even though everybody is riding high off that trailer, trailers can look good, and then you see the movie and it's straight ass. But Kevin Feige has said that they try to get back to a grounded approach. So I'm trying to have faith that the movie is going to be good. The trailer looks good. I've watched it multiple times. I wish I would have did a reaction to it. I was out and about, so I couldn't do it, and I already watched it. But I'm hoping it's going to be good. I believe it comes out the 14th of next year, which is really crazy. So if I'm not one of the lucky ones to get there open night and see it, I'm definitely trying to catch it later on. But let me see. Captain America: Brave New World, especially with all the reshoots that it's had. Yeah, it comes out Valentine's Day, so maybe they're thinking everybody will see it as a date night and put it out on holiday weekend. So we'll have to wait and see. The trailer looks good though, and the one thing I want to say about Captain America: Brave New World, you have Sam Wilson, who has no superhero soldier serum in his body. So y'all gonna have to. He's gonna have to figure out how to defeat bad guys without the super soldier serum. Even if he has the shield and he has the suit that has the. I don't know if he still calls it the Falcon, but if he still has the thing in his back that he can use as an accessory to help him defeat the bad guys. I don't know. But the fact that he doesn't have the super soldier serum, it makes it a little more intriguing because he's not just going to be slamming through bad guys throughout the whole entire movie from beginning to end. He's going to have to use his wits and his smarts to figure it out. Not to say that Captain America couldn't, you know, OG Captain America, Chris Evans. But since Sando had a super soldier serum, he's gonna have to use his smarts and his wits, and that's the one thing that I'm curious about is how he's gonna use that to defeat the bad guys. All right, got one more minute and then I'm done. So, with that being said, covered a lot of topics. Feels good to do a live stream again. I thank anybody that could stop by or watch this later. Please make sure you hit that like button. If you're new, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit the notification bell. I'm trying to grow my channel and trying to reach at least 1,500 subscribers by the end of this year and at least hit 2,000 watch time hours. So it feels good to do a live stream. I will be back. What's today? This is Friday. It's crazy. I feel like the weekend already. I will be back Sunday with episode 7. Not sure what I'm going to talk about, but I will be back with episode 7. But that one I will have at a much earlier time, around 1:30. So make sure y'all look for it. Make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe. I'll catch you on my next live stream. I will live stream again on Sunday around 1:30 p.m. CST time. Again, 1:30 p.m. CST time. That'll probably be like the main time I'll be live streaming on Sundays. And then I have another random stream I believe I'll probably have on Wednesday around the same time. So make sure y'all like, comment, and subscribe. Share this on all the social media platforms. I am trying to, like I said, reach my goal of 2,000 watch time hours by the end of the year. And going into 2025, sometime next year, I definitely want to get monetized. So I appreciate everybody that can support my channel. Watching my videos as well because I am trying to get all my videos past 100, 200, 300 views. And I'll catch you on my next live stream. Peace. I'm out.